What if you were to fall overboard? Have you ever ridden a Ferris wheel up to the very top height and found yourself paralyzed by the dreadful thought, what would happen if I were to fall out of this cab? What about falling from a cruise ship? Incidentally, these ships are taller than the Eiffel Tower, so it is not surprising that when standing on the top deck and admiring the ocean view, you might suddenly catch yourself thinking, what would it feel like to fall overboard? But before we begin, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to Buddy Panda and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. That being said, let's begin. In August 2018, a British woman traveled by ship across the Adriatic Sea. There seemed nothing unusual, just the perfect summer vacation at sea. The cruise liner Norwegian Star headed to Venice, Italy, after she sailed from Vergarola, Croatia. It was midnight when the woman being on deck 7 fell overboard. It happened 100 kilometers from the coast of the city Pula, too far to call for help. As soon as the crew members found out what had happened, they immediately proceeded to search and rescue operations. All surveillance cameras on board were checked, and thanks to those cameras, its crew members detected precisely when and where the woman fell. The crew contacted authorities and called a patrol ship, a plane, and 2 rescue boats to search for the woman. The search went on all night into the dawn, yet no traces of the victim were found.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. All ships, man overboard. I think we found something. Please check out our position.
Around 9:30 that morning, rescuers noticed a figure in the distance. Was it really the woman? When they approached her, she must have also noticed them because she began waving desperately. When the rescue boat finally lifted her aboard, it became clear that the woman was in shock and exhausted from cold. But she did not seem as terrible as you would expect for a human who had spent 10 hours in the sea waiting for help. She was found about a mile from the place where she fell. Rescuers immediately sent her to the hospital, and after completing all necessary checks, they released her to answer questions from journalists. This is a phenomenal story. Unfortunately, there is no guarantee that you would survive after falling out from such a great height, and your chances of being able to stay afloat all night in the ocean would be extremely low. How did this woman survive? Several factors played into her favor. She had worked as a flight attendant, and therefore, she had been trained on how to behave in an extreme situation. In one of her interviews, she said that she tried to remain calm, singing all night to keep herself warm. Also, due to being physically fit, she was able to stay afloat. If you have already bought a cruise ticket, don't worry about falling overboard. Such occurrences are extremely rare. The International Cruise Line Association claims that a passenger's chances of falling overboard are quite literally only 1 in a million. So you are more threatened by catching a cold or the flu on a ship than actually falling overboard. Still, if a person does fall overboard, what would be the likelihood of being rescued? Much of the fallen passenger's chances depend on whether anyone witnessed the event. Of course, the ideal would be to have the incident reported immediately. In any case, when the fall becomes known, all the ship's crew must follow emergency protocol. First, the crew would notify the captain's bridge. After this, the ship would usually turn around. The crew would also inform ground authorities and alert the Coast Guard, so they could send rescue boats and helicopters or small planes to the scene of the incident. Meanwhile, rescue team members would begin to search for the fallen person so they could toss something to the victim for help. Individual life-saving apparatuses, including vests or orange circles located on the ship fences, would be thrown to him. Keeping afloat in deep waters is difficult and exhausting, so these devices would be extremely important for the victim. If the crew were to discover the incident immediately, then lifeboats would be quickly released into the water. If not, then the search and rescue operation would continue until the person overboard was detected. Time plays a key role here. because it is very difficult for a person to survive in the midst of restless waters. And if no one noticed the incident at the moment of the fall, then the chances of survival would be reduced to only 10 to 15%. Why are your chances so slim? You must understand that the ocean is really big. Looking for someone there is like searching for a penny in a vast field. Additionally, the ocean's surface is continually fluctuating. Rubbish and debris can distract and misdirect the rescuers. Even if a person manages to stay afloat, the visible portion of the person would be minimal, only the head and arms, so that the rescuers would hardly be able to notice you. You have to constantly move your arms and legs to stay afloat. This expends a lot of valuable energy and leaves most of your body slightly beneath the surface. Now imagine having to do all this when injured. If you fell from a great height, it would be highly likely that you would injure yourself when hitting the water. When falling from a high altitude, remember that cruise ships are taller than the Eiffel Tower. Slapping water can be as detrimental as pounding concrete. Such a fall might cause you to lose consciousness or worse. Another crucial factor may be the water temperature. When someone is plunged into cold water, they experience shock and instinctively grasp for breath, even when immersed in water. Also, if the water temperature is 4 degrees, a person has only 60 minutes before his body gets hypothermia. If the temperature is 10 degrees, then this time doubled. The time triples if the temperature is 16 degrees, and so on. Simply put, if you fall overboard, then your survival chances would be best in warm tropical waters. In the tropics, luck is on your side. This warming reassurance might quickly be disrupted by worries over shark attacks. But sharks tend to launch unprovoked attacks only in areas with high populations of sea lions, their favorite food. Even in those areas, like the United States and Australia, the incidence of shark attacks is extremely low, 0.5 attacks per million respectively. Modern cruise liners are very reliable, and falling from them is highly unlikely. Security measures include high fencing around the entire deck so that it's almost impossible to cross over them. Several detection systems have also recently been installed, such as motion sensors, radars, and tracking devices. In general, all these security measures preventing people from falling overboard make ships one of the safest modes of transportation. So don't cancel your long-awaited cruise in the Caribbean. The most important thing to remember in the case of an overboard catastrophe is to stay afloat. The best way to do this is to find something to grab hold of. Take hold of any nearby debris which might serve as a flotation device. If nothing is available, draw air into your lungs and lie on your back with your arms and legs apart, like a starfish. U.S. Marines learn another technique which is especially helpful when trying to stay afloat in choppy waters. Spread your arms and legs apart, but keep your face in the water, lifting your head only to take short breaths. You might think you'd be better off without sticky, wet clothing, but this is not the case. Keep your clothing on. Being in the middle of the ocean, you can acquire sunburn and even heat stroke, so keep your clothes on to protect yourself from the sun. You might also become extremely thirsty but resist drinking seawater. The human body is able to process only a small amount of salt water. The high concentration of salt in the seawater is toxic to humans. Above all, stay in place. Most likely, your first thought would be to swim after the ship. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to calculate distance while in water. Therefore, in your panic, you would run the risk of using all your energy to swim after the ship, which is much further away than you initially thought. Besides, rescuers would look for you in the place where you fell, so try not to leave that area. Keep calm. This is easier said than done. However, if you are afloat in the ocean, you must preserve your strength. Panicking quickly drains all energy reserves and prevents you from thinking clearly. So keep calm, stay hopeful, and wait for help. Please let us know in the comments, how would you deal with this situation? If you learned something from this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to Buddy Panda, and share it with your friends. Click to check other cool videos right now. See you next time.